right, welcome to another episode of Heroes and. I'm Andy. It's my good friend CP.
That's me.
And this is our podcast. We talk about all things movies, comics, TV shows. Basically, if it's part of geek culture, we're going to talk about it. And today we are talking about it's a top 5 episode. And this whole season, fall 2019 season, there's a spooky theme to it. And I don't know about you, CP, but one of the things it just sucks, and I hate it when it happens, and someone can say maybe even scary, is when you go into a movie, a book, a TV show with high hopes, excitement, just to be disappointed. And so today on the episode, we are talking about Heroes and top 5 disappointments.
The letdowns, exactly.
So, again, there's no order to our top 5s, and definitely want to make sure that we're letting you guys know, the viewers, the listeners, that when we say disappointments, we mean that we had we were excited. There was a high level of expectation.
There was a lot riding on it. Basically, it's every M. Night Shyamalan sequel.
Exactly. So, and then unfortunately, we were disappointed. So, here we go. I'm going to go first.
Okay.
All right. So, and this one's probably going to be controversial. I'm just letting you know up there. I'm letting you know up front. Okay. So, first one, Logan.
Andy.
Logan.
So I apologize on behalf of Andy, on behalf of Heroes and on behalf of all of our friends that all agree that movie was incredible. I don't know why he doesn't like it. I think you need to rewatch it post having Olivia.
Maybe.
Because granted, I'm not a dad.
Yeah.
But
so let me explain. I love the Old Man Logan comic. I knew it wasn't going to be exactly that, just because they weren't able to pull off of that with the rights and having all the characters involved.
Right.
So I knew it wasn't going to be exactly that. But man, I just don't understand why people love it as much as they do. I don't know why people talk about it like if it's this great film. I mean, I guess there are some notes there of family, of legacy, that kind of stuff. But I just don't buy it. And the biggest thing I don't buy, honestly, is that relationship between X-23 and Logan. I don't necessarily I don't get attached to that relationship. I don't think that.
So I will say this. I did like Logan a lot, but I'm in the same camp as you, where at the end of the movie when she calls him Daddy,
yeah,
and he acknowledges her as his daughter, she's a clone.
Yeah. I know what you're saying. I just don't buy it. I don't get the attachment to it. It was cool, obviously, the respect that Hugh Jackman, of him, playing this iconic character for X amount of years, 17 years, whatever the case may be, and Professor X coming back for this last movie. And so I get it had some stuff, some cool stuff in it, but man, right. I just don't understand the hype behind it. I think I've only seen it once in theaters. I tried seeing it again. No, I saw it once in theaters. I saw it a second time. I still didn't get all of it the second time.
Do you own it?
I have, digital copy.
You did buy it? Okay.
Yeah, digital copy. So which
is a big deal because Andy loves the shiny.
I do
Blu-ray
love the
cases.
Case. Yeah, the case is great. So, and then I even tried a third time, and I was like, I don't think I can do this. So, again, don't stop the episode. Don't stop the video. Just work with us. I know. We started off with a bang. So, that's my first one.
Coming in hot.
Logan, CP, what's your first disappointment, man?
My first one is probably going to be quick.
Okay.
But it is simply that, Andy and I are good friends, obviously. We have a podcast together. Mm-hmm. There's our friend Sugar Melly. She's kind of a big deal on Twitch. If you're a fan of Twitch. And then we have a good friend, Mel's husband, John. Mm-hmm. Mel, John, myself, we all play on PlayStation.
Okay.
The disappointment
we get it.
The disappointment is that Andy...
Oh my God!
is Team Xbox. That's the whole disappointment. The disappointment is just that we, like The Last of Us, as of when we're recording this, The Last of Us Part 2 trailer was like, it just came out yesterday. State of Play was yesterday, and they just announced the release date, and there's like a fancy $170 collector's edition that I'm pretty sure I need. Yes. So, Morgan, if you're watching, go ahead and Best Buy pre-order that thing. But yeah. So, but the thing is, Mel, John, we can talk so much about this, be so excited, but we can't talk about that with our friend Andy because it's falling on deaf ears.
So, also, our good friend Oscar.
Yeah, Oscar. Also,
really the third part of Heroes, and let's give credit where it's due. Oscar is a PlayStation owner as well, and so I'm definitely the odd man out in our circle of friends, and they let me know all the time.
There's a group text with the four of us, yes, with Oscar. That is pretty much, it's just me telling Andy how much better PlayStation is at this point. Like every time there's like, oh, this is what Xbox is doing wrong, or this is what PlayStation is doing right. I don't pay attention to what Sony is doing wrong. I'm sure that there's something wrong. Yeah. I'm sure that there's haters, you know. But yeah, so that's the disappointment. It's just that Andy is team Xbox.
That's solid, man. All right, man. That is a big disappointment. I can see it. I love it. That's totally Heroes End. All right. My number 2, it's a little bit more on the less serious, right? Not as controversial as Logan. I think all fans would agree that the series finale of How I Met Your Mother was a big disappointment. So I got onto this show. I actually binged watched it. I had a friend that owned all of them on DVD, and so I watched all of them up until I think the last season, which I caught live. So I was catching it on a weekly basis. Okay. And so, and it was just I loved it. I love like shows like that, comedies, things like that, and so I got attached to those characters. I thought the characters were really fun. Of course, it's in New York. They like play that up a lot too. Like there's just a lot of good things that you enjoy about the TV show. And there's a good mystery as far as like who is the mother. Like there's a good mystery of, like, how is all this gonna finish and play out. And so we go into the last season. Obviously, we met the mother. We play out the whole season. The last season is based at a couple's wedding. Barney and Robin. If you're, again, spoiler, sorry about that, but their wedding. The whole season is focused on their wedding. Then the second to last episode, or the last episode, come to find out they're getting a divorce. Come to find out, again, spoiler alert, the mother passes away, and then the last episode ends with Ted is choosing Robin now all of a sudden. And it wasn't satisfying to me at all. In my opinion, the character development that they were doing with Barney, his growth as a human, not being a womanizer, getting over his issues, trusting, being in a relationship, all that stuff went down. Like they just kind of flushed that away. I get that he becomes a dad, but I don't know. I was super disappointed with it. And I know there's like an alternate ending. I didn't even bother, because it just kind of like it was just frustrating, and so
it just tarnished the memory of the whole thing. To some degree,
it really did. I'm not even trying to be dramatic. Like I was so crushed by it that the next morning, after I saw the season finale, the next morning I felt like I asked myself, like, did that really happen? Like I remember waking up thinking, is this real? And I felt like, so honestly, again, not being dramatic, but this is really how I felt. I honestly felt like someone broke up with me, and I just felt like sucky. I was like, oh, this sucks. And that, I don't know,
going into work that day.
Yeah, I was like, all mopey and stuff like that. So that's my number 2. Again, that one's pretty. Most fans would agree with me. It's not controversial like the first one, but my number 2, series finale for How I Met Your Mother. CP, what's your number 2, man?
My number 2 is the Terminator the show Terminator: The Sarah Connor Chronicles ending.
Okay.
I think we may have talked about this, or you've at least heard me complain about this. But if you're not familiar, there was a TV show that I believe it was on Fox Network at the time. But it ran for 2 or 3 seasons, and it was a show about John Connor and the Terminator and his mom, Sarah Connor. And so there's a Terminator that is sent back. It's a girl Terminator, and she's there, obviously to protect John. Yeah, pretty much a normal story, and the show follows them, obviously trying to stop Skynet. So, just like normal, we know if you're familiar with the Terminator franchise, you know that. But the show, so I really enjoyed the show. I know a lot of people that really did. Unfortunately, it didn't, I guess, have the viewers that Fox was looking for, and so they pulled the plug on it. Without giving it a proper ending or a proper ending to the story that they were telling. And so, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but also it's a show that was not ended properly. So I wouldn't even recommend watching it at this point. So, but the ending of the show, there's, it's kind of like, they're obviously not planning on not having the jobs next season. Yeah. And so the series ends with they're fighting some Skynet guys and another Terminator. A portal is opened to the future, and the Terminator that we know and that John has kind of developed, it's like kind of budding into potentially a romance, which is a little weird. Yeah. But he's a teenager, and so. And she's a girl, and she's pretty, so... Puberty. It's a thing, But whatever's on it's not what's on the inside that counts, okay? You've been lied to. Yeah. But so portal opens up. She is taken through the portal into the future. John is like, Mom, I got to go after her. And then he steps through the portal. Right as the portal is about to close, the mom is like, Sarah Connor is like, I'll stop it. Like, I'll stop Judgment Day because you're giving up your whole thing. To go save this girl. And so, portal closes. He finds his uncle, John Reese is, I believe, his name. Okay. He finds his uncle, and his uncle's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm John Connor." And his uncle doesn't know who he is because he messed up the timeline. Okay. Because John Connor now left the past. Yeah. Doesn't grow up to become John Connor, leader of the rebellion against Skynet. And so, and that's it. That's where it ends. With who are you? With who's John Connor? And the future is still being laid to waste because the whole thing is John Connor's the one that can save the future. And they take him out of the past. He's not in the future. That's how it ended. That's how it ended. That's like, this is it. And then Sarah Connor, she went on to be, she was in Game of Thrones. I can't remember her name. Yeah. She slept with her. She's the one who slept with her brother. Yeah, she's that guy. That girl. That girl. Is there any talks or anything? Has there ever been any talks about? I don't think so. Okay. Of like either at least a movie, like with Prison Break, they did a movie that continued just a little more of the story. Yeah, I don't think there's ever been any talks like that. Gotcha. They've also rebooted the Terminator franchise like 15 times. Yeah, it's like as many times as Spider-Man at least. Yeah, so, that's all right. But so Terminator. The Sarah Connor Chronicles. Gotcha. That's my number 2. All right. I'm up for my number 3. It's another TV show. And I'm just this is a little like vague and kind of general, but for me it's gonna be Heroes. Really like season 2 and on. So here's what I mean. So the first season of Heroes came out, NBC. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. Yep. Save the cheerleader, save the world. Yep. Like, it was phenomenal stuff. It was really exciting. It was really engaging. It was something that even like you didn't have to be a superhero person to enjoy it. Like, I knew people that watched it that weren't into comics, that weren't into superheroes. Like, it was just fascinating. It was really, really cool. And so I loved the first season.
there was, again, that whole campaign of Save the Cheerleader, Save the World was everywhere. Like, everyone knew what that was about. Season 1 ends. Like, it was good. Like, we're all excited can't wait for season 2.
Yeah.
And then I remember watching the first episode of season 2, and we were like, okay. And then they threw us, they went back to back, and I don't know, like, we weren't, I wasn't aware of this, but they dropped, if I'm not mistaken, they dropped episode 1 and episode 2, like, on the same night, back to back.
Okay.
And so it was like, oh, like, it was a super hype kind of a moment. But then as the season went on, it was like, I don't know if they just try to, like, if they overcomplicated things, or they were trying to make it maybe bigger, and like they just lost their ways. But I don't remember. I remember losing interest, and I remember like
I feel the same way.
Like, I don't know where I dropped off, so that's why it's kind of vague. So, but I don't remember where I dropped off, but I know that it was really with season 2. Like, they did not keep the momentum of season 1 at all. And I think they went one more season after. I think they went to season 3, and then they did that reboot a few years ago, which I think actually was called Heroes Reborn. And I didn't even bother watching it. Like, and so again, it was so cool. Like, we had, like, there was a really cool special show, and unfortunately they kind of lost their ways. And yeah, they
which, I mean, that's kind of the story for, like, you were talking about How I Met Your Mother and now Heroes. And I feel like that happens a lot with shows, unfortunately. That's like talking about Game of Thrones, you know, like, this is just a random aside, but like, that was why I didn't want to get invested into Game of Thrones, because I know so many shows like Heroes or How I Met Your Mother, or dare I say, The Office.
Easy.
That lost some of the magic of the original season or seasons. Lost is the same way. The only show that I think has ever really ended well is Breaking Bad. Where, like, pretty much everyone agrees that, you know, it still ended well. But yeah, so it's unfortunate when that happens.
It is unfortunate, and with TV shows, it's really tricky, because obviously this is a sidetrack, but like the studio or the news, the channel, whatever, right? They want more shows, more seasons, more episodes for their viewership, for their numbers. But sometimes you just got to know when to call it to conclude a story properly, you know. And so, anyways, that's my number 3, Heroes. I'm just gonna say season 2. Just to be, you know, give an actual number. All right.
Yeah. Mine is also a show, and it is the show Arrow.
Okay.
And so I love this show. I binge watched the first season, I think, on Netflix, and then by that point, I think I was caught up for season 2. Season 2 was incredible.
It was incredible.
Deathstroke is the main villain, and I think, I mean, it's a CW show, but somehow it still felt like this huge epic thing, like on par with like a HBO kind of, or AMC kind of TV show.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, kind of like what you were talking about, as we went into season 3 and season 4, season 5, I believe it's season 7 that we're about to go into, which is going to be a shorter run, and it is the official, like, final season. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a season that's been as good as season 2. Yeah. No one is really arguing with that. No one disagrees with that. As far as, you know, what I know. And so the unfortunate thing is, just like you said, it's like, you know, it especially because it just peaked too early, I think. And it's, I mean, you know, anytime they come in with a really good season, and then it's like the stakes are high going into every other season after. And unfortunately, it's like, oh, season 4 was okay, but it wasn't as good as season 2. And you know, it's always on a scale of 1 to season 2. Yeah. You know, and so it's an unfortunate thing. With Arrow, it's kind of at this point, like, there was a couple points in the last season where I was kind of just ready to call it. Like, I was ready to just give up. Obviously, we knew that the ending after the after the crossover event last season, we knew that the ending was on the horizon for the show. And so I told people this, before talking about it, but it was like being in a relationship that like you've been in for so long that like you don't really want to be, neither person is really happy. Yeah. And you don't really want to be in it, but like it's also like you've been in this thing for 7 years. So why are you going to give up now? You don't want to be a chump. And so but yeah, so Arrow just kind of, really just how the show has gone since season 2 is my number 3.
Yeah, man, that's tough. But again, I'm glad that they're wrapping up officially.
At least it is going to get official and official. Like this is the end of the show.
Yeah, but that they don't get canceled over the summer and they don't get to tie up loose ends because that's where it really sucks.
Right.
So we'll see how that last season plays out. All right, my number 4 is a wrestling match because Cody, you love wrestling.
Favorite.
It is the WrestleMania match between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura. So for my wrestling fans, you know that these two wrestlers are phenomenal, no pun intended, and that they're veterans. They have so much experience, and it was so exciting as a wrestling fan that AJ Styles was our WWE champion because like he's guaranteed money, week in and week out. And then we had this challenger in Nakamura. He won the Royal Rumble. Again, wrestling fans, you know what these terms mean. But so he had a championship match set with the champion at WrestleMania. And so it was like a dream match. And WWE was even labeling the match as a dream match, as like, hey, this is what every wrestling fan wants. Like every fan of professional technical wrestling, like this is the match that they want to see. And we get to WrestleMania, and I was so nervous, and I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be able to deliver the expectation and the hype. I was hoping I was going to be wrong, but I really wasn't. And again, even though I was like, I don't think this is going to be as good as we all think it is, I was still disappointed because I was still optimistic. And I remember like it was kind of slow, and there's nothing wrong with a slow match, but it was kind of slow. And then the end just kind of happens, and it kind of get to that match, like it finishes, and we're like, that's it. Like there wasn't enough drama or like suspense. There wasn't enough false finishes. So when I say false finishes, like when you pin your opponent in wrestling, the ref counts to 3, 1, 2, 3. A false finish is 1, 2, and then at the last second before he hits 3, the wrestler kicks out. So there wasn't enough of that where it's like, oh, he almost got him. Like there wasn't a lot like back and forth on that. And so I think honestly I feel like that's what was missing. And then the ending where Nakamura just goes bad and gives him a low blow. Like, I don't know. So it was super disappointing. It was never good. It was never a good feud to begin with. And it just sucked. So, again, that's also another popular decision, like a popular agreement that like, yeah, that match was rough. Yeah. So that's my number 4. I get it's crazy because that was like from 2 WrestleManias ago. But that's my number 4. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. CP, what's your number 4?
My last 2 are both
wrestling matches.
MCU focused.
Ooh.
Marvel Cinematic Universe focused.
Interesting. Okay.
So the first one is, and this just came out over the summer, is that Spider-Man is no longer a part of the MCU. Now, if you're watching this in 2 years, I hope that Disney and Sony were able to come to some sort of agreement. Yep. And they were able to get him back in. But basically, it was like we went in, we saw Far From Home. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. Mm-hmm. And they set up Spider-Man to be the next Tony Stark. Yeah, Mm-hmm. And then, within a couple weeks after that, it came out that Sony and Disney got into a disagreement over how much they would each make off of Spider-Man movies, and unfortunately, it seems that, they've come out several times since then and said that the talks are pretty much concrete that that he is no longer going to be part of the MCU.
Yeah.
There is, I think, still some hope. There's been some rumors about like there being like a 30% share and Venom becoming part of the MCU. But it's just super unfortunate because I really love Spider-Man. I know some fans that haven't enjoyed Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But I really do enjoy and really have enjoyed this Peter Parker and the relationship with Iron Man. I'm a big Iron Man guy. You guys know this. Mm-hmm. And so seeing Homecoming basically be like kind of an Iron Man 3.5. And it really I think that the relationship between Tony and Peter is like Tony is the only one that could have taught Peter the lessons he needed to learn in Homecoming. And so it's just super frustrating that ultimately it's coming down to money. I totally kind of get both sides of, Disney doesn't want Kevin Feige invested into something that they don't really own. And Sony is like, we own this. So, so it's kind of frustrating. It's like, I understand both sides. It's just unfortunate that we all lose.
Yeah, man. So my number 5 is actually Spider-Man related, and it is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. The first Amazing Spider-Man came out, and it was good. Like, it was like, that was actually really solid. That was fun. It was like people enjoyed that Spider-Man, like in the film. It wasn't too crazy. It wasn't trying to set up a whole lot. And from my memory, if I'm not mistaken, like it was just like, hey, let's just do a Spider-Man movie. And at the time, they still did the whole Uncle Ben, origin story, so because at that point it was only the second time, and so they did all that. First one was pretty, like, it was solid. It was a really good Spider-Man movie. And then the second one came out, and I mean, fans, I think, were excited, or maybe they were even nervous, unfortunately, but there was still excitement because we were getting the director was coming back, a lot of the cast was back. We were Green Goblin was supposed to be like a thing. Gwen Stacy, like for comic book, comic book readers, we know there's the death of Gwen Stacy is a big part of Spider-Man's history. So we were excited to see that on film. Like, not excited to see her die, but like excited that they were going to, do an adaptation of that. And so we were like, oh, this is going to be really good. And then we should have kind of known, but like there was like Rhino was in there for a little bit, right?
There was a lot of trailers.
There was
that showcased Rhino. That showcased the same shot of Rhino.
Yeah, exactly. So we were just like, what's really anyway? So we were still excited. Like, I don't think anyone was not excited for it, but we go in, man, and it was just a cluster. That's probably the best word to use. That they unfortunately went for the forbidden fruit of the MCU framework, epicness and framework of setting up different movies and setting up a bigger thing. And so, they attempted that, it did not work. They had a lot of villains in there. It was kind of weird. Green Goblin. There was Rhino was in there, and then I can't remember the
Electro.
Thank you. Actually, so yes, thank you. I kept on saying Green Goblin, but I was like, there was another big villain that was the villain, and it was Electro.
Yeah.
So that, like, it was like, what is happening?
They're also juggling, in the first one, Peter promises Gwen's dad that he wouldn't be with Gwen, and so then Peter is trying to reconcile how he made this promise to Captain Stacy, and he still loves Gwen, and so it's like there's also
it was tough.
There's a lot happening in there.
Yeah,
for sure.
And so I forgot about Electro. Yeah, but then I was like, I know there's no villain.
Which is messed up because Electro is the main villain.
Yeah, and I completely
Goblin
forgot.
only shows up at the end. Basically, he shows up with just enough time.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Kill Gwen Stacy.
Yeah. So it was brutal. It was definitely a cluster, and like how they did Green Goblin of like it being like a skin thing or like a sickness that was making him go mad or making him his face look ugly and distorted or infected or whatever. Like it was bad. The Rhino, you found out at the end, Rhino's not even in it. Like he's not even a villain. He's just at the last shot when Spider-Man shows
up. He's like the next
villain. Yeah, he talks to a little boy. Hey man, thanks for helping me out. I got this. And then they have like this encounter.
Cut to black. Credits roll.
What? Like, are you kidding me? And so the best thing about that movie, and we've said it before, I know I told you off air, but honestly, the best thing about that movie was the relationship between Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. And I don't know if that should be the best thing of any Spider-Man movie, is like the love story. You get what I'm saying? Like that. I don't think that should be like.
I think I agree with you.
I don't think that's a target.
But I think that there are some people that would disagree with you.
Probably. Yeah, no, you're right. But there
are some people that are like, take out all the villains. I just want to see MJ, Spider-Man having falling in love.
Exactly. So it was a big disappointment. And unfortunately,
I do know some people that really love that movie.
The second one?
Really? Like have listened to Heroes and said, I know how you guys feel about Amazing Spider-Man 2. You guys are wrong.
That's so crazy. Please let me know, like, comment on YouTube. If you're listening to the podcast, like, just hop on YouTube and just comment, because I need to.
I will say this about both of those movies. The shots of Spider-Man swinging and stuff, I think are my favorite in both of those. There are some really cool ones in the first set, in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. And I think in Far From Home, we get a pretty cool shots there at the end.
Yeah.
But there's some cool shots of that. And then the way they display the spider sense in the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, I think is my favorite way that it's been communicated and and whatnot in a movie. So that's a good one though. I agree with you.
It was unfortunate, and again they were trying to set up all these other movies and Sinister Six and all this stuff, and it was just like unfortunately it didn't do so hot in the box office. You know, audience didn't like it, and so just kind of all that stopped. Came to an end. So that's my number 5, my last disappointment, top 5, Amazing Spider-Man 2. CP, finish this up.
I already said, that my last 2 are MCU focused.
Yeah.
And so my last one is that it's when people aren't all in on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so at this point, everybody at least knows.
Hold on. I don't mean to cut you off, but can we give CP props and credit? Like his disappointments are like on another level. Like it's not just a property, a movie. It's like
my disappointments are with people.
Yeah, it's like heart
with
level.
Andy, with you.
It's deeper. It's deeper stuff. But go on.
So at this point, pretty much everybody knows or has heard of. If you don't know, if anytime your kids talk about an Avengers movie or your grandkids talk about an Avengers movie, they're talking about the MCU. So, Andy, are you okay? Andy, I'm killing my co-host.
Yes.
And so my frustration is when people have seen parts of the MCU, but not the whole thing, and so. We know several people. I know several people that have seen either they've seen a couple of the Iron Man movies, they've seen the Guardians, and then the Avengers movies.
That's it.
That's it. Or they just haven't seen any Captain America movies, or they haven't seen any any Thor movies or anything like that. And so For me, as someone who has been literally loving this thing, I think since 8th grade.
Yeah.
It's just so disappointing because it's like you're seeing the whole thing, seeing this whole story that they were telling over 22 movies with the Infinity Saga. You're seeing it's such a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
I believe, and there's so much. Not that any of them really. I don't think that there's too many of them that feel like a setup movie.
Yeah.
It's done pretty clever and pretty subtly throughout all of them, and so it's just like, to me, it's like you're looking at a puzzle that's missing pieces, and you're like content with looking at the picture without having all the pieces there.
Yeah.
And so it's just like there's so much more to glean from when you're seeing the whole thing. And so it's just like but on the other hand, I also believe that that you could watch all of the Avengers movies only and be okay. Like if you only watched ones with the Avengers literally in the name.
Okay.
I think that you could be, you could still have enough of a understanding,
sure,
to follow the movies. You would have to pay a little more attention to dialogue though. But
that's insane. I completely agree with you. Like, it's shocking to me. First off, it's shocking to me when people say, "Oh, I haven't seen any of them." And I'm like,
but that's the thing.
Like,
what I'm saying is, I have more respect for people who haven't seen any of them.
No, I agree.
Like, that whole thing, the whole Harry Potter thing, that's just not my thing. Okay, that's not your thing. That's fine.
I get that.
That whole Marvel thing, it's not my thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But for you to say it's my thing sometimes,
I want this.
Try to tell your wife you're my thing sometimes, and let me know how that works out for you.
So, I agree, man. Like, it is really tricky, and I think you would say, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like, I know for me, when I hear like, "Oh, I haven't seen this or I haven't seen that," it's like you're missing the payoff,
right,
of what they're trying to do with these films.
Right.
Like, the payoff is there. There is a level of connection. There's a level of heart. There's a level of love. There's a level of family there. Like, you're missing the payoff of all of that if you just see parts of these or some of the movies or whatever. And so
they're really just superhero movies.
Yeah,
at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and what we're saying is that they're really it's more than that. And so. But I know that we are we have a podcast on this kind of stuff, so I know that we're on the other side of it. But it is still like, it is, I agree, man. It is like disappointing because it's like, you're already in it. Why not? Yeah.
Like, it's like you're dipping your toes in the pool.
Yeah, like you already got
your
wet.
Bathing suit
yeah,
on.
you're already
Just
wet.
go.
Just jump in. So I totally get it. So CP, your last one.
When people aren't all in.
On
gambling, I love it. In the MCU is my last top 5 disappointment. Andy, I won't lie to you. So this episode was Andy's idea.
Yeah,
but I kind of feel like I'm just a little depressed.
No,
it's been fun. It's been fun. Don't get me wrong, but there's I think it was like around like the 3 or 4 mark where I was like, this is just sad. All these things are sad.
You know what's funny? I thought the complete opposite. Like, this has been a great episode.
This has been therapeutic. Andy's growing in his as he processes his feelings out loud.
Thank you for helping us with our counseling session today, guys. We really appreciate it. But that is our episode, Heroes and Top 5 Disappointments. Again, we are in the fall 2019 season. So again, episodes are coming out weekly. So be on the lookout for those. And again, this whole season is some spookiness to it. And so we're going to have some fun with that. And of course, if you can, please support the podcast. Please support us by subscribing to the YouTube channel if you can, subscribing to the podcast episode channel on whatever podcast app you use, and so that will go a long way. You can follow us on social media on Instagram, Heroes and so just follow with some silliness and things like that, and it should be a good time. So thank you so much for listening, for joining us. My name is Andy,
and I'm Cody,
and we're out.